Welcome back to Life Changing Wealth. You know who it is? Your boy, Jay Biondo here. I post 2 videos every day about investing in the stock market, cryptocurrency, general investment knowledge, pretty much anything that has to do with wealth. If you like the content, smash the thumbs up on this video. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's jump into it today. So I really wanted to discuss sort of some basic finance, because I think a lot of times we get so sort of caught up on these big titles like how to get rich quick, right? Using these cryptocurrencies and maybe some other methods as to some other investment vehicles. But let's just talk about let's sort of rewind, take things back to a basic level of finance, and just talk about sort of the average American. And so I want to jump in and talk about like somebody who makes an average income, which I looked it up. It's about $67,000 in the United States per year, and I want to just go through and think through this with you. Because I think everybody should sort of have what I would consider this high school level knowledge, the shit they don't teach you in high school that they should, and that is, once you finish school, or if you even go to school, and you get out there in the real world and have to sort of plan ahead for your future. So and what does that look like? I get a lot of people asking me questions like, "Oh, I don't know. Should I invest? How much should I invest? Should I invest while I have credit card debt? Should I invest if I have student loan debt? How often do I have to add to my investments? How much and how often? Should I use stocks? Should I use bonds? Should I use 401ks, 529s? All these different vehicles, right? And before we get into all those different potential vehicles and use cases, let's just talk general finance here. And that is, let's assume you make $67,000 a year. You're getting taxed at like a rate of 30% on that money. So let's just call it 70 grand, taxed at about 30%. Let's assume you have like $50,000 worth of what I would consider like, capital to use, right? And then let's assume that another 50% of that gets, pushed away to like living expenses. So now you got 25 grand to work with. And you're going to have other expenses and other things that come up, car payments, mortgages, maybe that are not even included in that 50%. So let's assume that you could save like $10,000 a year. Okay, so let's assume if you have no starting amount, and let's say you put it in the stock market, which averages about 9 to 10% a year. We'll go on the side of caution. And let's assume you add $10,000 per year over a 10-year period, right? And we calculate that. Oh, periodic deposits. Yeah, that's and we calculate that out. So at about a 9% return per year, we'll end up with somewhere with around 151,000. May sound like a lot. It's not really that exciting. And then if you go out to 30 years, yes, you're looking at over $1 million. But that $1 million, throwing 10 grand in every year, it's not really the $1.3 million that it shows, because even though it sounds like a lot of money, at the end of the day, it's not, because it's going to be discounted by the cost of inflation. So over time, maybe that really looks like like half of that, right? Because inflation's at about 5% now. So let's assume that really gives you like the buying power of $600,000 or $700,000 over a 30-year career. That's not a lot. That's not very strong. So you have to find other ways to sort of beat this, right? And if we play around with this, and let's assume 10%, we get up to 1.6. That's a little bit better. Still not great, but a little bit better. And look at it this way. So if you save 10%, or if you earn 10% interest on your money, and the housing market just went up 25% this year, you're gonna have a hard time you're gonna have a hard time unless you own the house and then can sell the house for the cash. So another thing to discuss. So that's saving 10 grand a year. That's pretty tough for a lot of people. But let's assume you could sock away 20 grand a year. Now we're looking at 3 million bucks over 30 years. That's good. That's good. You'll have $3 million by the time you're 60, somewhere in that range. Um, that's great and all, and you can retire off of that, and you can live a good life off of that. Certainly don't need $3 million to retire, but do I want to wait until I'm 60 to have the $3 million, right? So let's shorten this, right? Let's assume you're 30 years old and maybe 25, 30 years old, and you want to make it to 40. So you want to try and save as much money as possible over a 10-year span to grow your wealth quickly. So over a 10-year span, popping 20 grand away is only $300,000, and that's with the compounding interest. Now it would compound actually a little bit better than this, but this is just a quick overview of this. You probably would get daily compounding on this, but regardless, that's where we are. So that's at 10%. So now if we jack this up to 20%. You just increased the future value from $300,000 to $500,000. Pretty cool, but let's assume you want to get to sort of the millionaire status in 10 years. What do you have to do? Do you have to do 40%? Yeah, you don't even have to do 40%. You have to do, let's see here, 30%. Somewhere around 35%, it looks like, if you put in 20 grand a year. That's about right. And that's really hard for most people to do, to sock away 20 grand a year. But it does give you some sort of barometer. And the thing is, we know that typically with the stock market, nobody's getting 35% every single year. You might do that for 1 year, but you're probably not going to do that every year. So, this is all just to give perspective, because I get really frustrated that when I was younger, growing up in school, nobody taught me any of this. And this is knowledge that everybody should have in their pocket, just a little bit. We're not even diving in deep. This is just a basic future value calculation, but gives you some perspective. It also kind of shows you how much things cost and how much other institutions try to screw you over. So if you're buying a car at a 6-year period with say a 7% interest rate, and let's see here. Let's say the car's starting value is $35,000, 7% interest rate. They're not adding to it. So over a 6-year period, that car cost you $52,000. You just bought a luxury vehicle and didn't even realize it. So, yeah, that's the power. That's why all these companies want you to finance everything. It's no secret that they make all this money off of this. So just keep that in mind and put perspective on. I know it's easy to overlook this stuff, and then this is like base level. First step in understanding finance is understanding a future value calculation and understanding the impact that it has. Another good example would be a home, right, which you keep for 30 years. Let's say you put like $50,000 down, or the starting amount. Now let's do a value of a home of let's say $250,000, right? That's low. Let's do $300,000. So $300,000 at an interest rate of let's just call it 4%. Let's assume we're not adding any money to it, just for the sake of this calculation, to understand the cost over a 30-year mortgage. So that $300,000 house over 30 years cost you almost $1 million. Let that sink in. Let that sink in as far as how these banks screw you, and the interest associated with that. So you're only paying you're paying $300,000 in principal, and then you're paying $673,000 in interest over that term. And most of the interest gets paid up front, so you don't even really start to chip into that principal until you're at the end of the life of the loan. So that is the real brief overview I wanted to give you guys on this future value topic, just to give you an overview of how interest rates work for those that may not be as savvy and as familiar as this. That's what I wanted to leave you with for now. Don't forget to check out the other videos. Click a thumbs up if you like the content. Subscribe below. Let's get about 3,500 likes on this video. Comment below too. Tell me what your thoughts are about the future value calculation. Tell me if this is something you didn't realize, or tell me if you want more advanced content. I'd love to hear from you. So I can't wait to see what you guys say, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. Peace.